If you're having problems placing blueprints in Planet Zoo Console Edition, in this video I'll show you how to rectify some of the common issues. First is how to handle the floating. Does your blueprint load floating in the air like this? This happens when it includes pieces that were sunk into the ground. Like with this one here, these rocks were sunk a little ways into the ground, so now when I want to place it, it's floating because the very bottom of the lowest rock is flush with the ground, not the habitat gate. To rectify this, you need to use the Advanced Move feature. In the Move settings, go to Advanced Move, and underneath this, switch across from the red X to the green Y. This indicates which arrow is active. With the green Y selected, move the left analog stick up and down, and the blueprint will move corresponding with this. Using the stick to line it up, once you've got the habitat gate flush with the ground, click X to confirm and it'll place the blueprint, which is now not floating in the air but is flush with the ground. So that's how you resolve the floating. Now, another problem with placing blueprints is that when you get to the advanced move step, instead of moving freely, the blueprint might be snapping in increments like so. When this happens, the problem is that the blueprint contains water. There's some weird game physics going on with water that we can't see, and that's causing the snapping movement. Even though you can see here the move snap slider is set to 0. If there's water in the blueprint, it's going to force it to snap regardless. There's no easy way around this issue or a button you can press that'll make it stop. You just have to line the blueprint up as close as possible to the ground, and fingers crossed it lines up correctly. With this one here, it's lined up perfectly, no more action needed, it's flush with the ground. However, that's not always the case. The reason this one's so flush is because I created this blueprint in the same temperate biome that we're in now. Where the issues crop up is when you're trying to place a blueprint with water in a different biome than the one it was created in. So to demonstrate this, I'm now in a grassland biome, and for some annoying reason, the predetermined water level in this biome isn't the same as the biome I created that blueprint in. So when I go to place it again, using the advanced move like before, it's got that mandatory snapping issue again because of the water, but this time the snapping doesn't align the blueprint up with the ground. My options here, it's either sinking too low or it's slightly raised and will never align exactly with the ground. I'm forced to place the blueprint at the slightly raised increment, and you can see here the ground around the habitat barrier raises to meet it. It's not hugely noticeable, but it is certainly noticeable. Plus it could cause issues with pathing down the line, and that's another story altogether. So how do we fix this? One option is to delete the water out of the blueprint, then resave the habitat as a new blueprint. This is one I've created earlier, which is the same blueprint just with the water already removed. Without the water in this one, in the advanced move step, the smooth placement is back, so I can now line that gate up to be flush with the ground. When I place it, you can see it's lined up perfectly with the ground again, so no weird bump in the terrain. However, this doesn't completely resolve my issues here. I can't change the game physics, so that predetermined water level is still active, which means even sinking this to be flush with the ground, it's still going to be misaligned with the water level predetermined in the biome that I created this blueprint in. So when I add the water back in, the water level here, it's slightly higher than it was in the other blueprint. As you can see here, what's happened is the raised platform in this blueprint is now underwater, so that's non-functional anymore unless I move it. Let's take a look back at the original, and yeah, see, the platform is directly aligned with the top of the water there, sitting where it should be. But when we go back to this one, unfortunately it's sitting lower. This water level issue, there's no way to fix that, aside from only placing this blueprint in the original biome it was created in. So the choices here are either live with the bump in the terrain, or live with the water being at a slightly higher or lower level than the original design. Another common issue with placing blueprints is getting the error terrain modification failed. This again is to do with some background game physics going on. To demonstrate, I've set up a path here. And let's say you want to place a blueprinted habitat to line up with the path. Let's bring back the camel habitat. And if I line it up where I want to place it, here seems like a good place, lining up with the path. But when I hit the button to place the blueprint, terrain modification failed. That's because there's a kind of hidden force field around the path where you can't place blueprints with barriers within this range. Instead, I need to move the blueprint to a section beyond the path. This looks far enough. Nope, still not far enough. A little bit further up. And yes, that works. Now that it's placed, the mystery force field is broken and I can easily extend the path back to be in line with the habitat like I wanted. But then what if I wanted a habitat right here? You can do that, but it's the opposite process where you need to delete the path first. So let's get rid of this pathing up to the line with the habitat here, then select another blueprint, and then I can line this up with the other habitat like I want it to be, and that should place here now. No, see, terrain modification still failing because the mystery force field is active between the two barriers. So I need to move it along here a bit further, and now it places down fine. All that's left is to fill back in that bit of path that we deleted. Now this gap that's been left in the middle, I can either add another path through here, or I could fill it in with plants or scenery pieces. Or, if you're feeling adventurous, you could even do an additional step of partially removing the barrier around the habitat next to the blueprint you're wanting to place. And that would remove the mystery force field again, but that feels like too much work and I'd rather just have the gap. That's the 3 most common issues I know with placing blueprints: aligning with the ground, dealing with the snap movement, and terrain modification failure. Let me know in the comments if this has been useful, and be sure to check out my other Planet Zoo tutorials for more hints and tips. Thanks for watching, I'll catch you in the next video.